It's one of Pixar's most popular properties of all time and an idea the Walt Disney Imagineering has been kicking around for over a decade. Friends, are we finally seeing Monstropolis and a Monsters, Inc. land coming to one of the Disney parks? And can we anticipate that this will be to the scale of what we saw with Zootopia over at Shanghai Disneyland? Brickey here, breaking down Disney's big design dilemma on trying to decide where Monsters, Inc. is going to go on location at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I'm so glad you showed up. Let's go. Anybody who watched the D23 announcements realized that they were a little short on details. So when fans would learn that they were going to be getting attractions and lands that they've been dreaming of, that was an exciting moment. But after what we heard in regards to the Cars land taking over Tom Sawyer Island and removing the Rivers of America, now people are a little skeptical on, oh, I'm excited for the new stuff, but at what cost? What will it be replacing? So currently, as it stands, Disney has two potential locations for where they're going to put the Monsters, Inc. land. One, I don't think anybody would be bummed out about, but the other, it's a little bit more complicated. The second option for where they want to put this land is not going to make fans happy at all. Is Disney contemplating giving up on the Muppets once again? So the big announcement at D23 regarding Disney's Hollywood Studios and Monster Inc. was that they were going to be building a fully articulated Monsters Inc. land for the first time ever in Disney parks and make us feel like we are inside of Monstropolis. And I thought, off the top of my head, this has got to be going inside of the animation courtyard. However, like all of the announcements at D23, it was just like, we're doing a thing, and now we're going to move on to something else. There just wasn't a lot of details. But one of the details we did get, and this is so important in particular for this park, is a suspended roller coaster would be coming that's ripping around the laugh floor. We saw concept artwork, we saw the model, and this is an idea that I know that Disney Imagineering has been kicking around for over a decade, because it's long been rumored to be something they were thinking about doing in Disney's California Adventure. And in my opinion, this park is a little bit short on being a full day's park. So having another e-ticket would be very important. But aside from that, just Walt Disney World in general having another thrill ride would also be a great thing for Disney's fans. And when we look at the model, it looks like they are putting a ton into a very small footprint. I mean, this track literally looks like they threw spaghetti and said, that's the track we're going to ride on, because it is so tangled and bent and turned around. And I think having the suspension of the roller coaster is going to allow for lots of fun swings and going around digital projections. And if we also see the track that we're going to ride on, this is going to make me sick, but if we see the track we're going to ride on, if we also imagine that there being conveyor belts in there with real doors moving all around us, as well as obviously doors projected on the outer walls, this looks like it could be a fantastic addition to a park that could really use some love. And knowing that this idea has been around for over a decade makes me excited that they're finally deciding to pull the trigger on it, which to me says they've had a good idea for a long time, but maybe technology, budgets, and overall where the company's at, they're ready to handle this. And after the fully articulated world building that we saw over at Zootopia and Shanghai Disneyland, I think that this could be fantastic if that level of detailing is done to the overall landscape that's around this roller coaster. And to me, a land would mean that there's going to be more than just a roller coaster coming, because you would just announce the attraction. If we look in the concept art, we see people eating Monster flavored snacks, so there should be some sort of food service, as well as, doesn't a land technically mean there's more than one attraction? So I'm fully anticipating that later, when we get more details, when Disney figures out where this is going, we'll learn about a second or maybe a third attraction. Second, I would say, is a lock. Third, I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself. But I would anticipate that those would be smaller rides for the little monsters. But this announcement does come with some complications. Disney's still trying to figure out exactly where it's going to go. Could have a massive shape on how big this is, what we should anticipate, and also how it will fix some of the problems that Disney Hollywood Studios having, because this park has fallen in its popularity. So my first pick, and I'm assuming lots of other fans' first picks, would be that this would happen inside of Animation Courtyard, which currently is one of those broken Disneylands where there's the launch bay, which is long outlived its purpose. It's not even open right now. There's the massive building that is used for the Disney Junior Dance Party. I had to look at the sign, I have no idea what it is. And then there's also over here the show building that's used for a Little Mermaid theatrical play, which is supposedly coming back online. And I know that fans that have seen it really, really love it, but they've been saying that was going to be coming back for quite some time. But let's break down how the courtyard could be what we're seeing in this one piece of concept art.
In this concept art, the Star Wars Launch Bay building is what initially led me and many other guests to believe this would be the location for the new Monsters, Inc. land. Swapping out this building for the concept art design, it appears almost tailor-made for this space. But with this comes a few design challenges. One challenge is the visibility of the Hollywood Tower of Terror. The concept art suggests adding factory building facades on either side of the roller coaster building to keep the sight lines intact, ensuring Monsters Inc. remains a good neighbor and doesn't disrupt the tower's iconic presence. In the concept art, the roller coaster is positioned here, flanked by the industrial silhouettes of Monstropolis. If the Disney Junior Dance Party building stays, it could easily be transformed into a Monsters Inc. dance party, or it could be broken up into actual shops, or who knows, another attraction. The facade shown in the concept art would be added to the front, creating a cohesive Monstropolis streetscape instead of the current plain box structure.
One way or the other, Disney has a huge decision to make on where they place this Monsters Inc. land. Make sure you subscribe to Hey Brickey and keep watching the channel, because I'm following this and all the other Disney Horizon projects until cancellation or completion. And I'm rooting for the second. Make sure you subscribe to Hey Brickey. Keep going on these adventures with me. Now back to today's Horizons episode. And personally, I'm always going to go for the fake city facade over the big box look. I love when you go into a Disney park and you see all these different little buildings, and it gives you the optimism that all of these things are possible to do. Even though it's just a set piece and those options aren't really much more than what's in your imagination. But man, I love that look so much more than just big, giant box. But hear me out for a second. What if this is going to become a real land? And those are real buildings. And this giant dance space goes away, and in its place becomes a series of shops, restaurants, and maybe this is also the housing for a significant attraction for the family. This would quickly give this park 2 more attractions, 1 thrill ride, 1 family attraction. It could desperately need both of those. It would also put food and entertainment into a space where right now, every family that I've seen come in this morning, they are frustrated, they are confused, and you can tell that they're like, man, rope drop, and we spent our energy going in the complete wrong direction, losing our place in line for something that we actually want to do instead of something that's just absolutely confusing. Now let's talk about the courtyard of this concept artwork. I would be standing right around where the eye-shaped fountain would be. And you can see that they're going with an urban plaza or a city look, but obviously with a Monsters twist on it. It's an easy theme to build, but it would also set the reality that we're inside of the Monsters world. You do see one of their vehicles out on the street, which I'm assuming would probably be like a walk-up vending location. But the courtyard area, it's pretty good, nothing too crazy, but it doesn't need to be that crazy because it looks like a lot of the heavy lifting is being done on the facades all around it. So as long as it feels like a city, we will feel like we're inside of their city. But if you notice over to the left of the concept artwork, we're really not seeing much at all. That part is hidden. And what that brush is hiding is this theater right here, which, as I said, people who have seen this show really swear by it. And if this is the location of the Monsters Inc. land, Maybe the recasting of this show is accurate because the show could still run all during construction, keeping a little bit of life when people come into the park and decide to turn right into Confusion Courtyard. But in 2 or 3 more years, when the land is ready to open, it would be easy to convert this once again over into something that is Monsters, Inc. based. They want to keep it a theater. I'm sure plenty of folks would love to see a theatrical monster show. I mean, I'm guessing. And if we study the concept a little bit more in the area that I'm standing in roughly, there is a playground. You can see the exit of a bending and twisting slide. Could there be a playground component to all of this? Which would then put into question the future of this building. Because if we look over in the corner of this concept artwork, we see just a little glimpse of what could be a marquee out front for this building right here. Now, is that marquee keeping this a theater, or is that marquee meaning that this could be some sort of an attraction or component of the land? But possibly the greatest thing that this location has on its side is that it has tons of access behind it.
These buildings appear to be the ones that could be removed or repurposed from backstage to guest or entertainment spaces to fully realize the Monsters, Inc. concept.
Now, that access is currently, all that property back there is currently used for administrative tasks. So yes, Disney would have to recirculate how they do backstage operations, but there's room to grow from this land. You know, not saying that it's totally easy to have your employees shift around, but it is possible. Our other option is firewalled off. It's on the very edge of the park, meaning that its growth potential is very narrow. Where here, if they took over an extra building or all 3 of these buildings and went into the current backstage area, there is a lot of room for growth potential here. And this is a property that sells a lot of merchandise. It's been around for decades now, still very popular. This is an evergreen idea. So I would hope that, as I've said, if they can go to a scale that's reminiscent of Zootopia, this will be amazing. So with the addition of the slide and the marquee over on the corner, I think that everything on the other side of this archway on this concept artwork is intended to become a Monsters, Inc. land, like the whole thing. And you know what? It should be, because the park is perfectly designed for you to come through the archway and enter into a fully enclosed land. This is such a visual world, it's such a fun world, it messes with scale and our expectations because it's our world but twisted with a Monsters vibe to it. Even if you don't know the characters, you can get lost in the fun. This entire courtyard, everything here, should be converted over to this land and its theme for this to be truly successful. Now, if they decide to put the Monsters, Inc. land inside of where the Muppets exist, this is going to break the hearts of some fans. And I can understand Disney say, well, nobody really goes over there. But I would push back, have you given them a reason to? Ever since I've been coming to Walt Disney World, the 2 stores in this land have been closed, but there are 2 restaurants and 1 attraction. And it happens to be the last project that Jim Henson ever touched.
Placing Monsters, Inc. within Muppets Land just doesn't quite add up for me. In this first concept art, it seems like Grand Avenue could stay. The idea of setting the Monsters roller coaster at the end of a long walkway where Star Tours is now could create a dramatic reveal of Monstropolis on the horizon. Then there's also the possibility of Monsters, Inc. taking over the service station style restaurants to the left of Star Tours. So if Grand Avenue would remain with the new roller coaster positioned where the current restrooms are, leading guests over to where Star Tours sits today. Pizza Rizzo would stay, raising the question, will Muppets Land remain as is, making Muppets and Monsters next door neighbors? Or will everything here be rethemed to Monsters, Inc.? Note, their color palette does match incredibly well. Muppets and Monsters coexisting could be a fun and unique combination, which would bring a lot of life to this corner of the park.
But the problem with this equation is, why would you get rid of Star Tours? I know they have Galaxy's Edge, but Star Tours, popular attraction, high volume attraction, low maintenance attraction, doesn't seem like one Disney would want to get rid of. But there's no doubt that the Monsters, Inc. roller coaster would be way more popular. But that's not building capacity. That's, once again, trading one thing for another, making Launch Bay the true way to grow the park.
But there's another option, completely converting Muppets Land into Monstropolis, with themed shows, restaurants, and shops that already exist. A major issue with the concept art is the roller coaster entryway's placement, which could make the land's layout confusing. Talking to my friend Mike over at Blog Mickey, he gave me this theory. If you look closely at the concept art, the building at the end of Pizza Rizzo aligns perfectly with this concept art. However, removing the Christmas shops and the fire station places the roller coaster at an awkward angle, and this requires taking the park out backstage and taking over parking and breaking the current shape of the park. We also see Harryhausen's in the corner and the existing restaurant in the foreground, suggesting this building would be gutted to create a courtyard. While MuppetVision might stay, it would likely be rethemed to fit Monstropolis, serving as the second attraction in this mini land.
So I believe, like a lot of Disney fans, if Disney would give fans a chance to celebrate the Muppets in their park, they would gladly take them up on it. However, Disney has always had a 1 foot in, 1 foot out relationship when they put the Muppets into their theme parks. Maybe the main reason why Disney would want to use this space is because, I don't know, I'm having a hard time. They could get rid of Star Tours and make that where the attraction sits. They could convert the 2 restaurants over to Monsters themed restaurants, and then they could also have 2 shops. And don't forget, Monsters Inc. sells a ton of merchandise, way more than Muppets does. But are you really giving fans an opportunity to buy Muppets merchandise when you won't reopen the stores post 2020? And that's been 4 years. This is, like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, an amazing canvas waiting to tell stories. However, Disney has to put the stories in here for park fans to celebrate the Muppets. You got to give people an opportunity. And in fact, I think this land underserves this IP. But then again, I'm of the generation where the Muppets were a big deal. Do kids today care about the Muppets? I don't know. But I think it's the either or and having to decide this or that that aggravates people, especially when there's just a big raw piece of space over on the other side of the park that's not being used basically at all. So as Disney contemplates this change, I really hope that they see the uproar from Rivers of America and realize maybe we don't want to do that again to our fans. And maybe if we want to bring capacity back to Disney's Hollywood Studios, we reinvest in the Muppets land. I've been seeing tons of Parks fans, Muppets fans react to, they do not want to see the Muppets go away. But the good news is I think that the other property makes so much more sense than this one. Like, I'm having a hard time figuring out how this would add to the park versus just taking away from the park. With converting the animation courtyard over to Monsters Inc., the only real cost for Disney is giving up backstage space. And although we like to think sometimes that's easy, I'm sure that building new buildings for their staff and rerouting the way that they run such an efficient park backstage, I'm sure it's not as easy as fans make it out to be, but the real sacrifice with doing anything here is all on the back end of things, on the administrative end of the park. Anything that happens in this space is a complete net positive for the guest experience. So for Disney, as far as long shots and safe bets go, converting over the animation courtyard to an entire new land, it's a pretty safe bet. If they want to bet this big on Monsters Inc. being evergreen for a long time, and if they are willing to adjust their backstage operations. That's really what's at stake for this idea. But the other option is way more complicated. But that would also mean that it must have some sort of an upside, right? And I think the ultimate thing we can take away if they do choose this land is that means they must have something bigger planned for Animation Courtyard. But when? If you're not dropping the big guns now, when are you going to? Because everything here puts us in a proper time frame for when the attention will just start to fall off from Epic Universe. Now is the time to put in a big new offering to bring people back home to Hollywood Studios. And even though Disney doesn't know their decision yet, the one thing that we do know is that that time of 2025 to start this project is coming up very, very fast. So I encourage everybody, keep an eye out there, because the next concept art, the next announcement we get, if they don't tell us the location, we can be able to determine if the art's going in option number A or option number B. Therefore, one or two more clues, we'll know exactly, is Muppets gone or is the animation courtyard gone? I'm working on one of my documentary style videos breaking down why does Disney keep giving up on the Muppets. Your comments below will help me shape my narrative for the documentary and make sure your perspective is in there. So I appreciate your input. It'll only make the project serve this community even better. But honestly, the only gamble that Disney can't take is doing nothing, because Epic Universe plays a lot into this decision. Construction on this project is supposed to start 2025. That is also the same year that Epic Universe is going to open. And now Disney knows that that park is going to steal a huge part of the market share for 2 to 3 years. However, after 3 years, the novelty will start to wear off. And when people come out here, what's a great way to get them to come back and spend one of their valuable vacation days at Disney's Hollywood Studios? Well, an entire new land that's all based around monsters. That's why I do believe it needs to be a significant land with lots of different components. The bigger the investment, the bigger the gamble, the better that all of this works. And when people are in 28, 29 looking to pick their vacation days and which parks they're going to spend them in, it puts Hollywood Studios back in contention. Disney knows they have to do something, but each one of these plays on the board will give drastically different results. So will Disney go big? This isn't the only big debate that D23 has sparked amongst the Disney theme parks community. Watch this video right here to see the controversy on whether Disney should bring Walt Disney back to life.